for 10 years. I practiced in Plano for a lot of the time, and now I've come over to McKinney because Dr. Shelby and Dr. Giamatti that are in the McKinney office, and we're right here on the square. So you guys know where like Pie Emporium is? So we're upstairs, just right next to Pie Emporium. And we got this huge chiropractic practice. And I was in Plano, but they pulled me over. We're all with Illuminate because the McKinney one is just blowing up. It just keeps, it just does so well. I think it's because of the cool vibe that's down here. There's just nothing like downtown McKinney. So yeah, I've been seeing patients for 10 years. Tonight, I wanted to talk to you guys about stress. So last time she did some about intermittent fasting and some diet stuff. So I wanted to talk to you about stress. And because this is a small group, please feel free to interact and everything. But I wanted to tell you a personal story about stress. And I want to kind of round this up so you guys see how stress can affect different parts of your life and actually create all of the major diseases that we're having nowadays can link to stress. Okay? And then at the end of the night, towards the end, I'm going to give you a little bit of motivation, all right? And then also, I am going to give you guys an offer tonight, just at the end. It's a $50 offer. The $50 we donate to Samaritan Inn down here downtown. And that's just to come in and get checked if you want to do that. There's definitely no pressure, but I'm going to offer that at the end, okay? Okay, so back 10 years ago when I graduated, it was 2013 and it was August, and I graduated from chiropractic school. I had a girlfriend that we were going to practice together. She was in chiropractic school in Houston, actually. We had both joined this big franchise. It's called Maximize Living, this massive franchise, very big to get into. And they help you build your office, they help you train you, all of these things when you get out of school. And so we had planned that we were going to have kids, we were going to be a husband and wife team, we were going to practice probably north of Houston, Woodlands area. And by November, I had broken up with my girlfriend, and by December, I had left Maximize Living, and by January, I don't know if you guys remember that winter, it was going into 2013, 2014, and all of this happened because I didn't realize at the time, but it was all the stress from the hundreds of thousands of dollars of student loans that I had, for okay, go doctor, go look on an office and start adjusting people, and do all those things. And so all of that pressure started all of these changes, and I just kind of freaked out. And I started having all kinds of health problems and all of these things. And I'm going to go through some of those, but I had to implement some of the things I'm going to talk about to kind of pull myself out of that, because I was going down into a dark hole that could have actually made me not even practice and go and get a job and do something else. So it was a really tough time, but now everything's fine. I made it, right? So whenever you guys have a stress response, that with your nervous system, there's two states of your nervous system. Have you guys heard of fight or flight? Okay, fight or flight, and then there's rest and digest. Okay, so fight or flight, rest and digest. There's two. Your nervous system is either ready to fight and it stays that way, it's ready to fight, or it goes into it's after Thanksgiving dinner when your food's digesting and everything's calmed down. So it's either one of two states. So whenever I after those months and I started just freaking out and letting go of everything and being overwhelmed, I started having all of these things. So anxiety, I started having waking up and going to bed with anxiety, and it would just not stop all day. All of that, I didn't get into depression, but it probably because it wasn't enough time, but I'm sure I was headed that direction. Then digestive problems, my stomach hurt a lot of the time, and for me, I'm a total fat kid at heart, so I have to really watch what I eat and all of that, otherwise I just blow up. But when I was that stressed, I actually started really losing weight, losing a lot of weight because I wasn't hungry. Headaches, I had muscle tension, the muscles in the back of my neck, they just clenched, and they didn't let go for months. I could feel it. It was like someone grabbing my neck for months at a time. It took until about March, because eventually I started opening my own practice, and I started see patients, and it started to be okay. I started to move forward. But I was having I felt like I had high blood pressure, heart problems, the palpitations when I'm trying to go to sleep at night. Oh my gosh, trying to go to sleep at night was so hard at that time. My body was so wound up. And then I started losing weight, and I just couldn't even really think properly when I was worried about all these things. So that's what happens when our body is under stress. There's actually a physiological difference that happens. The blood, when your body goes into fight or flight, your blood moves to your extremities, away from your gut, So and a lot of things happen. Actually, I'm going to go into that. So first we're going to go over the definition of stress, and this is super important for the whole rest of the talk. So Webster's Dictionary says that stress is a physical, chemical, or emotional factor that causes bodily or mental tension, and may be a factor in disease causation, okay? So in order to remember that, is Webster's Dictionary says it's a physical, chemical, or emotional tension. Okay, so we're going to go in to like the physical and chemical and emotional. So physical stresses, there's those three sources of stresses. Physical stresses are like, there's either big stresses, like a car accident, sports injuries, those kind of things, or it's lots of little traumas, like sitting at a desk all day. You guys have seen this on our cell phones, like our heads are down all the time. And that causes physical stress on our bodies. So what we do in our chiropractic office is mostly physical medicine, okay, which is really missing from a lot of Western medicine, because what is Western medicine? Is it usually physical or chemical medicine that you get when you go to the doctor in America? It's usually chemical, right? It's not as much physical. So what we do is physical medicine. So I wanted to show you guys that we do these neurological scans in our office, and actually one tests the muscles, and it shows where there's muscle tension and actually spasm, and it shows to what degree, and that's what this is up here. So I had a patient come in, and it was 2022, 2023. But I think it was 2022. This lady Lisa came in to see me. It was at the beginning of 2022. And it was coming out of COVID. She decided to get an office job again. And when she went to the office, she started sitting under all those like fluorescent lights, sitting at a computer. She started to get headaches. And then she started to get all the sensitivity with the light. And she just started having all kinds of problems. And then it was going into her shoulders, all of that. And so when she came in, we scanned her spine. And we were able to see that there was muscle tension and all the problems that she had in the top of her neck. I started adjusting her, and I put her on a treatment plan for a few months. And what we did is we cleared out her skin. So you see how you see all this red there, and then you see on the other side that all the red is gone. So all that red is like muscle tension, muscle spasm. Okay. So this one is actually not the one that she came in with. This one here is after her treatment plan. After we calmed down all those muscles, and she was doing great. She could work at work. She wasn't having problems. She was a single mom. It was really stressing her out. So she did great. 2 weeks after we finished her treatment plan, she got in a car accident. And that's what, we scanned her again, and that's what came up. So this is, when we're talking about physical traumas, like these are things that we can't see, you know? And people, when they get in a car accident, they're not hurting right away because there's a lot of adrenaline at that time, but then later on they start to hurt, and it's all these little muscle tensions and spasms. We also test posture, so you can see how this lady, her head is forward. Do you know that every inch that your head moves forward is like another 10 pounds of stress on your spine? So, spine and joints. So you can see, if you looked at this lady without these, you might not notice, but you can see how her head's not on straight and then her head's forward. So those are the type of things that we check, but that's all physical stresses that actually impact how your body functions. Okay, so the next one is chemical stresses. So we're familiar with some of these. You know, everybody has their vices. So mine is, every once in a while, I like to smoke a cigar. Definitely not good for me, but it's what? Who has a vice here that they want to share? Are you kidding? What?
I know it's a shocker.
Yeah. Anybody else? Anybody else have something that they know they shouldn't do, but it's a habit? Every once in a while they're doing this.
Nicotine.
Nicotine? Yeah, there you go. Yeah. We all have some, you know, so it's not about being perfect, but these are the kind of things that over time they can start to accumulate, you know, and those are the chemical stresses, and we have them coming from all over, from the air we breathe. They say that inside air a lot of times is worse than outside air, you know, but we have these chemical stresses coming at us all the time. So we've got physical and chemical stresses, and then there's emotional stresses, and we all have all dealt with these, right? It's all those emotional stresses. It's student loans. It's all those, oh my gosh, for me, student loans. You know, they did a study and they found that that people that have lots of student loans, and it affects their happiness. You know, they did this whole big social media study, and I've got it written in here, but I don't want to get into all of that. I don't think we'll have time. But basically, it shows them these are the little things that have impact on our happiness, and they put our bodies into more of that stress and that fight or flight. So there's so one response, there's two different kinds of stress. Okay, so acute stress is short-lived and it's good for us, right? That makes sense? You know, having a little stress every once in a while is not a big deal. But chronic stress, that's long-lived and it's bad. So chronic stress is the things that we hold on to for long periods of time. So I want to give you an example of how this works. So with acute stress, this is what happens with your body, okay? So you imagine you're walking down the street and the dog starts barking at you, you think it's going to bite you or something, then your body goes into that fight or flight. It releases, you guys may know that there's adrenal glands that sit on top of your kidneys, and they release adrenaline. And that's some stress hormones, and there's cortisol as well, right? You guys have probably heard of cortisol as well. But adrenaline is released, and so that's so you can get ready to fight, right? Then what happens is your heart rate and blood pressure increase, and that's so you've got blood pumping out to your extremities, so you can start to fight or run. Okay, then your blood glucose increases. So actually, there's blood glucose that is released in your system for quick energy, so you can get away from a life-threatening situation. All right. Then cholesterol and fats increase in your blood whenever you go into fight or flight. So a lot of people don't know this, but cholesterol is actually used for wound healing and things like that, among a ton of other things. But this is just some things that happen whenever you have that fight or flight. Okay. So short-term memory and ability to learn decrease. So you imagine like when you're running from a dog, like, and somebody asks you like, "What did you have for breakfast this morning?" You know, you don't remember that stuff. You remember how to run, you remember where your house is, so you remember those long-term stuff, but really short-term stuff, like you can't remember at that time, your body's like, "Oh, I gotta get out of here," right? So then fear and anxiety increase, so you can deal with the problem at hand. Serotonin and adrenaline. So serotonin decreases, that's like your happy sleep hormone. You don't need that at the time you're in fight or flight, right? And then your adrenaline increases, which makes you fight. So that makes you stay up and fight. Okay? Then sensitivity to pain increases. So if you get bit, your body wants to know, your brain wants to know as soon as you get bit, so it can take care of it and can heal that problem. Then cellular immunity, growth sex hormones. So this is all stuff that just gets put on the back burner when you're in fight or flight. Okay? All of those things. All right? So now, if you think of all of the things that we have to deal with nowadays with like taxes, with relationships, with money problems, with job problems, like all of those things together, it's actually, we don't just have these short, if the deer's running from like wolves in the woods, it has fight or flight. Once it gets away from the woods, like 10 minutes later, the deer's just back to eating grass, right? But it doesn't work that way with us when we've got these long-term stresses. So there's only one response. So with chronic stress or long-term stress, the same thing happens, but now it's over weeks, months, years. Okay, so stress hormones are released. So this is going to be over a long period of time. If we're releasing stress hormones all the time, what do you think that could lead to? Like mood disorders, things like that. You know, like anxiety, chronic anxiety disorders, and things like that. If your heart rate and blood pressure increase over weeks, months, years, what can that lead to? You got high blood pressure over weeks, months, and years. Yeah, right? Heart attack, stroke, right? Okay, so blood glucose increases. So if you have glucose, more glucose going on throughout your body over weeks, months, years, what can that lead to? Diabetes, you got it. Diabetes, right? So fear and anxiety increase. Again, you're looking at like the cognitive disorders in people and like, you know, anxiety, depression, those kind of things. Over weeks, months, years. Short-term memory and ability to learn decrease. So I want you to think of like the kids with this one. So short-term memory and ability to learn decreases. Things like ADD, ADHD, you know, kids won't sit still. Like same thing with adults. Okay, so sensitivity to pain increases over weeks, months, years. You guys ever heard of like fibromyalgia, you know, chronic pain syndrome, things like that? And then cellular immunity. So guys, cancer is an immunity issue. It's when the body is supposed to be, these cells that should have been killed a long time ago, but they were allowed to live, and then they start multiplying like crazy. So little things like this, like cellular immunity goes down, growth and sex hormones go down. So over weeks, months, years, growth and sex hormones go down. What could we be looking at? Yeah, things like impotence and those kind of things. And then bone loss increases over weeks, months, years. What do they call that? Osteoporosis, right? So you see how long-term stress, it actually, these are all of the diseases that we have as problems nowadays, and you can relate them all back to the stress response. So pretty crazy, huh? You know? So this is what happens. So whenever you're under stress, there is really something that happens in your body. It's a change. It's not just in your head. You know, so we have to do things to be able to handle this, right? So what are the two strategies? So the first strategy is you just reduce the stress in your life. Right? You just reduce it. So that means you just quit your job, or you sell your kids, if they're teenagers, sell them, something like that, But we have to be realistic. A lot of times we can't change our situation just like that, right? So the second way, we got to improve our body's ability to adapt to stress. Okay? And so those physical, chemical, and emotional stresses. Okay? So here's the strategy. Go on the strategy. Okay, so the first one is physical medicine. So there's physical stresses. So what do we do to combat that? We use physical medicine. So physical medicine is everything from, there's chiropractic, that's my favorite one, because I'm a chiropractor. But it's also there's physical therapy, there's exercise, it's yoga, it's all those things. It's taking a walk. You know that there's no drug that's out there that has the benefits of walking 30 minutes a day from taking it. If there was, then people would be breaking down doctors' doors to get that. But all of the benefits you get just from taking a walk. But this is physical medicine. This is so much of what is missing with Western medicine, and why we get such good results in our office. So I'm going to talk to you just a little bit about chiropractic and what we do. Just because this is my favorite. This is my favorite physical medicine. But again, like other, it's getting moving. Movement is everything. So moving your joints, yoga, all of that kind of stuff. But your spine and your nervous system it's the master system of your body. So the first thing that formed when you were a little baby was your spine, and then everything grew off that. So for your heart to beat, your lungs to breathe, for a cut to heal on your finger, your brain has to communicate down your spine and out the nerves that go to every cell, tissue, organ of your body. So if you look at this, like the nerves that exit your neck, the ones at the top, they go into, so remember Lisa, she had those headaches. She had headaches, she had sensitivity to light, she had sinus issues, she had neck pain, she had problems with her neck, with her traps. So you see how these nerves, they exit, they go to the eyes, the glands, in the brain, the base of the skull, neck muscles, diaphragm, shoulders, elbows, arms, wrists, fingers, hands, fingers. So I've had people that have come in to me before. I had a lady that once came in. She had had 2 carpal tunnel surgeries on each wrist. She had, over the years, she had lost her ability to be able to type, and so she was pecking, and that's what she did for her job. And she came in, and she was pretty frustrated at the time. And I took an X-ray of her neck before we had these scans. And her neck was trashed, and her neck, those nerves that exit her neck go out down her arms to her hands. And so I told her, I said, I don't think you have a problem with your wrist. I think the problem is you have pinched nerves in your neck. And so I started adjusting her neck. This lady had to literally so power started coming back to her hands. She literally had to reteach herself to type. And she was pretty pissed off when she found out that she had carpal tunnel surgery on both wrists pretty much for no reason. She was still left with the same problem. And that's one of the biggest problems with Western medicine is they chase symptoms. Wherever your symptom is, they look at just that. So they only looked at her wrist because she was having, pain. It's like hand and wrist, and that's it. But when you take a step back and look, well, where's that power coming from? It has to come from your brain down your spine, out every cell, tissue, organ of your body. I mean, you guys have this. You guys built yourself in 9 months in the womb. You guys went from 2 cells to 60 trillion cells in 9 months. There's this innate intelligence inside of you that knows how to build a human being from scratch. That's amazing, and that amazing innate intelligence is still inside of you today. And that's the real doctor. And you can't, that's the real wisdom that knows what to do. Right? It is. And we mess with it, we mess with it, we mess with it. And we always think, and in Western medicine, we have this tendency to say, well, we're going to override this, and we're going to rob Peter to pay Paul. And you guys have seen the drug commercials. I mean, how ridiculous they are. But it's like, we're gonna make your blood pressure go down, but your liver's gonna fall out, and you're gonna, your guts are gonna come out of your butt. It's like it's ridiculous. It's like, they cause like bleeding from the eyes, and that comes from like just chasing symptoms. Like, oh, your blood pressure went up, but we've lost common sense. I mean, if somebody gains weight and their blood pressure goes up, well, think their heart has to pump all of that blood to all that extra tissue. So it kind of makes sense that their blood pressure would go up, right? Because it's got to pump harder. That doesn't mean that's a good thing, but the body's still doing the right thing. And we just look at it like a machine, and Western medicine is just like, well, this is off, this is out of range, so we're just gonna push it down in the range that it should be based on whatever studies that we've done. And they forget that we all built ourselves in the womb. Like, we have this innate intelligence inside of us. And so in our office, we talk about that all the time. And we always are reminding people, like, oh my gosh, like, your heart rate, beat every moment you're alive. It's not amazing? You don't even have to think about it. Your body does so many things for you. We like to call ourselves a true wellness office. So we're not like, I don't know if you guys have been to a chiropractor before, but we're definitely not one of those places where you come in, you get cracks, and a few times you get the pain to go away. We care about your pain, but really what we want, and the patients that come to us, they want a long-term wellness. They want a coach and then doctors that are actually going to help them. You've got so many other doctors that you can go to, and they're all trying to keep you out of disease. But what we try to do is actually teach health and actually push people into a healthy place so their bodies start working normally. So, anyways, that's my big so. So like down here, and you see in the bottom, so the lumbar here, these all go to the large intestines, reproductive organs, thighs, knees, legs, feet. So a lot of times people come in, they can have knee problems. A lot of times that's the joint above, because the knee is a very more of a simple joint. It's a hinge joint like the elbow joint. Now it's not that simple. There's more to going on with the knee. But the hip above, the joint above is a dynamic joint. It's a ball socket joint. If the hips are misaligned, then it can cause problems with the knees. So we always look at somebody's alignment when they come in, because you could be wearing out a knee because your alignment's off. Or like that lady, it's like her head's over here, you see? And so she's putting more weight on one side of her body than the other. See how important physical medicine is? Looking at the physical part of our bodies and how that's affecting our health? Because you start to get pinched nerves in your low back, you can get constipation, irritable bowel, menstrual problems, pain in the legs, all of these things. But all makes sense? Is that cool? Yeah, is that cool? Okay, cool. I think it's awesome. All right, so that was the physical medicine for the physical stresses. Then here's how we approach the chemical stresses. We do this with chemical medicine or biochemical medicine, okay? So this is all the things that you're putting in your body. It goes for everything from food to the drinks to the air we breathe, all of those things. But all of us kind of know, we have an idea of what we're supposed to do, but then we have these big companies. So everybody knows Big Pharma, right? But there's also Big Food, okay? And these guys are working together, and they're confusing everybody, because a lot of nutrition is really, it's not that hard. There's very simple things that you can do, but just for a tip, like the two major things when it comes to chemical medicine that you want to remove and keep away from are processed foods. 3 things. Processed foods, sugar, like I'm talking table sugar and those kind of things, and seed oils. And so next week, I'm doing a seed oil talk workshop for our patients in the office, because we want them to know, like, these oils, these vegetables. Has anybody ever seen a canola plant before? No, there's no canola plant. But because these seed oils, a lot of them, they're actually machine lubricants, and about 1911 is when they decided to put them into the food supply. But you guys think about 120 years ago, heart disease was virtually non-existent. Did not even exist. Things like Alzheimer's, all these things didn't exist. But if you watch, like, where we started first, what happened is Crisco came out. You guys remember Crisco? You know what company made Crisco? Procter and Gamble. Yeah. It's crazy when you start to put some of these things together, right? So we have to really be aware, guys, and there is mass confusion out there. So if you're confused about like what you should eat, like should I go vegan? Should I do eat right for my blood type? Should I do, paleo? Should I do primal? Like if you're confused, you're supposed to be. And that is, I'm sorry, and I speak very plainly about this, that's those guys. They're throwing in all this confusion on purpose. And I've done all the diets. I've done vegan, I've done all of them. But just for a tip, everything has always swung back into, you gotta get rid of processed foods, you gotta shop around the outside of the grocery store, stay away from the inside of the grocery store. Even things like mayonnaise have seed oils in them. And the seed oils, what they do is they throw off our fat ratios. And not to get into it too much, but there's omega-3s and there's omega-6s. And just think like too many omega-6s, like 666, mark of the devil, like too much omega-6s. It messes with the cells. Every cell that we have in our body is surrounded by a phospholipid bilayer. It's fat. Our brain is surrounded with fat. Our nerves are surrounded with fat. That's what makes them move. So if we end up eating a bunch of oils that are high omega-6s, it throws off, and instead of being 1-to-1 omega-3s to 6s, we end up becoming it's like 16-to-1. Sorry, omega-6s to 3s, or even higher. And that's where again, you start to look at common sense. 120 years ago, we didn't used to have heart disease and all this stuff. What were they eating? They were eating beef tallow, beef fat, butter, all of those things. They didn't seem to have the problems that we have now. But now it's
stay away from butter.
Stay away from butter?
Well, that's what they're saying.
Yes, that's what they're saying. Okay, cool. I was gonna challenge you on that. Not like in a mean way, but I was gonna be like, wait, I'm not making my point right now. So yes, butter and so grass fed and all that. So out of all the things that I've all the diets that I've looked at, all the research, it's definitely more of stay away from processed foods. It's the sugar. Sugar is the sugar industry funds a lot of studies and all that, but really it is what has more to do with heart disease than even the saturated fats like they say. So it's the processed foods, sugars, and then what's the third one I said?
Seed oils.
Seed oils, yes. What did I talk about? Yes.
So on sugars, are you talking about just processed sugar, like you said table sugar, but you don't mean fruits and natural sugars?
So this is a very long conversation, but those are better. So definitely with fruits, you're getting a lot more with fruits. So yes, what I'm talking about is table sugar. I'm talking about high fructose corn syrup. I'm talking about just sugary stuff. All the chocolate, all of that. But it's definitely better to get your sugar from fruits and things like that. But I tend to go on the low carb.
Is non-chemically altered pure cane sugar? Is that?
So still, if you think about it, you couldn't gnaw on enough sugar cane, to get an insulin spike before your teeth fell out. It's still just not it's just not in nature what we're supposed to get. You look at these tribes in the middle of Africa, the Hansa tribes. I think they're in I can't remember, I think it's Tanzania, but they're in the middle, and they don't have any processed food or anything. They don't have any of the problems that we have. They don't have any heart disease. They don't have any dementia. They don't have any diabetes. They don't have any of that stuff. They do eat honey when they find it, but they're primarily hunter-gatherers. But they're primarily hunters. So a lot of them, although I was vegan for a while, I kind of came away from plant-based because I realized how nutrient-rich animal products are. But anyways, that's a whole other talk. But yeah, just to answer your question, really what I'm talking about is the sugar, the cakes, the stuff that you make in the middle of the grocery store and all of that. But if you stay around the outside of the grocery store with the meats, vegetables, fruits, all of that, you're going to do massively better than most of everybody knows the standard American diet's not good. But we all have choices that we kind of make on a daily basis, right? And every once in a while, the best thing probably on the planet is those little bitty nothing bun cakes. And those, and they make them with, I think it was with Philadelphia cream cheese, and they're amazing, and they taste even better if they belong to somebody else and you pick one. And that's the best thing I've done. I love it, but really, overall, you want to stick to go old school, guys. What did our grandparents used to eat? because that's the way we're supposed to go. Because we brought in all this stuff, and it all started around that 1911, 1912, and then it started with the seed oils. They're like, no, let's not use this for machine lubricants. Let's put it in the food supply for all this, you know. And it throws off the fats, and it causes a lot of the problems that we're having.
So
And it's,
can I ask you a quick
Sure.
question about the oils? So, like you said, like butter and beef taro and all that stuff was a lot better to use. Like, is it all oils, like olive oil and avocado oil, that you should stay away from?
Yeah. So this again, this is a part of my seed oil talk. But so if you're going to use oils, but it's a great question, and I'm going to answer it. So out of all the oils, you want to basically state there's not really like I'm just done with the oils. If you think about like the oils are everywhere. They are everywhere. If you go and get a burger somewhere, it's in the bun, it's in the cheese, it's in that, like, it's in everything. You know, there's so many different ingredients. I just watched a doctor break down like everything that's in McDonald's. He like sat down. He's like, okay, here's a Big Mac. Here's some fries. Fries they used to fry in beef tallow, and then they switched to like seed oils because they're cheaper. So virtually every restaurant that you go to is using seed oils. That's why you've got to at least get them out of your home, because if you're eating them at home too, then you're just getting seed oil all the time, and that's what throws off your fat ratios and leads to these other problems that we're having. So the good oils that you can use are one, olive oil. You got to get a good one because a lot of them are either rancid or they're just not good. So you have to really find like a good olive oil that you trust. And then there's avocado oil, which is actually arguably a fruit, but so avocado oil is better to cook with when you're cooking at higher levels. But what I use is I use either butter or I use ghee. Ghee is just butter with the milk solids taken out of it so it doesn't burn. So like you say, you cook a steak, a lot of times you cook a steak, the milk or the butter will burn but by the time that you're done with it. So if you use ghee, it doesn't burn. I mean, people are now, they're buying like whole things with like Wagyu fat, kind of like Crisco, but it's Wagyu fat, and they just take that and put that in the pan and then cook whatever they with it. So, does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, so those are the biochemical. And now there's emotional medicine. So this is different for everybody, guys. And it could be prayer or meditation, but it's taking a vacation. It's a gratitude journal. It's all these little things that help with our emotional things. The things that, and this is why I say it's different for everybody. So does anybody have an example of something they do like that makes them, whether it's fishing or just helps them feel better after they've been stressed for a while? You have anything?
I like walks.
Like what?
Walking.
Walking? Yeah. So walking, that's a combination like physical and emotional.
Yeah, it's just the nothingness.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome.
Especially, yeah, if you're like in the woods or if you're by the lake or something, it's just that nothingness. You're just your feet may be moving, but your mind's just in the serenity around you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, there's a whole thing of it. I guess heard of earthing and grounding. Yeah. So there's a difference in a lot of those mats that they're selling right now. You plug into the wall and lay on. You got to really kind of watch those because a lot of that time it's just flood your body with more electricity. The safer way is to actually is earthing, where you actually go out and you walk on the earth. Because it sounds like very tin hat and like woo-woo, but actually there's a lot of science behind it. We actually need to touch the earth, and when we do, it affects our cells, and over time it changes all how our cells are functioning in our whole body.
So you take barefoot walks?
Yeah, it's actually the grounding of it. We started having more problems when we were insulating from the ground because of our soles.
Yeah. So what I mean is like you're gonna see the longevity industry is like one of the fastest growing industries like in the world right now, and you're gonna see all this stuff come out right now. The grounding and earthing stuff they're coming out with a lot of things like pads you can buy on Amazon. You plug into your wall. But there's a lot of electricity around you and like behind your bed and stuff, so you're laying on that. A lot of times you just become another conduit where you're just sucking in that electricity into your body and it's going, and then it goes into the ground. So it's just easier. That's why just to be safe, go walk outside your backyard. If you have a dog, watch it. Just watch it. Watch where you're stepping. But other than that, it's like that's a safer way. So there's a couple of things here. So this is a gratitude journal. So this is a 2013 study that found that people that did a gratitude journal, and they reported 16% fewer physical symptoms, 19% more time spent exercising, 10% less physical pain, 8% more sleep, and 25% increased sleep quality. It's pretty good, right? You know, I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever thought like, oh, I need to write a gratitude journal, and then you just don't do it, you know? But there's actually benefits to these things. Taking a vacation. So you know, like 46% of Americans don't take their full time off. And you know what the top 2 reasons that people don't take their full time off? What do you think the top 2 reasons is?
For me, it's I don't want all the emails.
Yeah. So one of them is, the number one is like, I just have too much work. I'm having so much work when I come back. And what do you think the second one is?
Guilt?
It's guilt. Actually, yes. That's a good guess, though. That's probably number 3. But it's that they feel bad for their coworkers. Like their coworkers are gonna have to take on all that, so they end up taking all the time off. So you guys might have seen Dr. Shelby. She did the last 2. Dr. Shelby she works like 16 hours a day. She works every day. She's working Saturdays. Just because we're not open doesn't mean she's not working. We have offices that are in New Mexico as well, in Albuquerque, and she's working those. Like she's going to be in Albuquerque this weekend or next Monday, right? Something like that. And she works nonstop. But she tells us, when I leave, she goes on a vacation, she says, you will not be able to get a hold of me. And she is on an island in the Caribbean somewhere without her phone, and she totally disconnects. And that recharges her system, and then she goes and she just hits it. She works harder than almost anybody I've ever seen. But she takes that time, and she can tell when she's getting to that point where she's like starting to get really stressed. I need to go on, and she takes off, and her husband, they're on just these islands you've never heard about. But anyways, it's really cool. Goal setting. So I want to talk to you guys about goal setting too, because this again goes along with the emotional medicine. You know that what they're finding, that a lot of people that are dealing with depression, and which is a very serious thing, but it's actually more boredom than it is anything. It's like failed purposes. They know that they should be doing more, or they could be doing more, but they're not. And it's almost like this subconscious, I personally, I believe that inside we all have like this inner superhero, there's something that we're here to do. And, when you're dealing with all this stress, and you've got all this, all these physical stresses on you, and all these emotional stresses on you, and all of these chemical stresses that are coming at you, it's almost like it can rob people of their lives, their will to go out and do what they're here for. And I think that's the, Anthony Robbins said, he's like, is the rocking chair test. When you get to the end of your life and you're sitting in your rocking chair, rocking back and forth, what are you going to think? Are you going to think, I grabbed life by the scruff of the neck and suck the life out of it? Or am I going to think shoulda, woulda, coulda, And I think that those things need more. It's one of the things that contributes a lot to depression, anxiety, and those kind of things. Actually, before I went into chiropractic, I actually worked in I grew up working in pharmacy, didn't grow up. All through high school and college, I worked in pharmacies all through high school and college. And I saw what happens, when people are just taking the medication, they're there every week, and I knew all of their names. And there's never any talk about what do you do to handle this? What do you do to actually get healthy? So you don't have to take these drugs anymore. And so I started reading all those books about vegan and plant-based and eat right for your blood type, all of that. And I ended up in chiropractic because I just didn't want to we're the largest drugless profession in the world. And we get a lot of crap for that, because we refuse to prescribe medication. And it's not that medication saves lives. When it comes to I'll get into that, but we do a good job of keeping people alive. But when it comes to long-term health, a medication they don't even advertise, it's not gonna make you healthy. It's just gonna keep you from dying, managing the disease, but it's not gonna make you, cure it. You always have to do these things, these little things, that we all kind of know deep down we need to do. But I was going to say, the reason I brought up pharmacy and things is because I actually got a finance degree, and I was working for Bank of America downtown at the end of 2008, and I was miserable working in this cubicle, and that's it took all of the banks crashing at the end of 2008 and all of that please, yeah.
Sorry.
It's for me to actually like kind of wake up and go like, if I sit in this cubicle, and that is for some people. I had a friend, one of my best friends that I went to graduate from college, loved every minute of it, and he's done so well. He has like a ranch out in Texas, all these kids, he's doing great. But for me, it wasn't right. And if I would have stayed in that cubicle and I wouldn't have like left it and started over doing chiropractic, what I knew I should have done in the first place, I guarantee you I'd be sitting in that cubicle right now, probably on a lot of like antipsychotic drugs, depression drugs, anxiety disorders, all of those kind of things. And not to say I don't have problems now, but they're not the problems that I would have had before, you know? So, okay. So here's a little motivation. So I usually do this at the end of my talks, and this is a little bit of like a tough love, but a little motivation. Because how many of us, like, we know that there's things that we could do on a daily basis. We know there's things that we can do. But here's why it matters and why you want to put in the effort for your health. Because if you don't, there's a domino effect that happens, right? So, okay, so Western medicine, you guys probably can see this. Western medicine strategies to get rid of your symptoms at any cost. They don't address the cause. So I kind of talked about this already, but do you guys agree with that? Does that make sense? We all kind of know it, you know, but what about getting to the cause of like why somebody ended up having diabetes in the first place? How did somebody get an autoimmune disease? How did they end up with eczema all over their body? And why is their skin freaking out and somebody sitting next to them isn't, you know? But we don't look at those kind of things. And again, I'm sorry, unapologetically, but we have like Big Pharma and we have Big Food, and both of them are like, they're really messing stuff up for us. So we can't trust them to take care of us. We have to actually look at our own, what are we going to eat? What is the best thing? Reading some books, whether it's going plant-based or it's going, you know, more animal-based. You got to kind of start to really work on these things, because otherwise you get sucked into the system. And so the Journal of the American Medical Association, so this is JAMA, they consistently do these studies. I used to have like one specific one, but they always come out. So in terms of critical care, that means like you break your arm, you're in a car accident. America is consistently #1 across the world. We actually go like #1 and #2 with Israel a lot of the times. But when it comes to long-term health and longevity, we're consistently almost either dead last or close to dead last. And we spend the most money on healthcare in this country than any other country. It's like 33, it's like, I don't know, 3.3 trillion, something like that. And the doctors aren't getting that. I guarantee you I'm not getting that money, you know, from helping people. So I don't know where that money's going, but somebody's rich. But yeah, when these studies come out, and that's not chiropractic studies, this is JAMA studies where they're consistently, America is like lagging behind. If there was a guy like, if you like race cars and you were like really good at racing cars, this like really rich guy came in and with his car that had never done this before, like never raced cars, and he came in last. When you tell that rich guy like, man, you need to find something else to do, you know? But it's like America spends the most on healthcare, and we're one of the most unhealthiest countries in the world, in the developed world. So, #1 reason for bankruptcy in the United States. What do you think the #1 reason for bankruptcy in the United States is?
Medical bills.
Medical bills, right? So this is people that go, they have a procedure, and you know they can't afford it. But a lot of times too, have you ever heard of somebody go in and they get like a surgery? Oh, it's gonna be $70,000. Your insurance is gonna cover it. And then they have the surgery, and like 3 months later, the hospital calls and says, "Oh, your insurance didn't pay for $20,000 of this. You know, how do you want to handle that?" And that happens to a lot of people. You know, this is why we've got to actually be proactive. And these little things, like something silly like making a gratitude journal, is, you know, that may not be for you, but those little things matter. Like, we have to put in these efforts. Just because you eat a bag of M&Ms doesn't cancel out the carrot. So you're gonna eat the carrot, eat the carrot. If you have the M&Ms, have the M&Ms. But the M&Ms don't cancel out the carrot. You still did something healthy, you know? And then you've used that to build on other things. Okay, then what about genetics? So, what else should we have? Okay, I'm finishing up, guys. So, with genetics, you guys have heard of genetics, right? So, when it comes to genetics is like the gun pointed at you, your lifestyle pulls a trigger. So, there's something that's called epigenetics. Okay, so epi just means on top of. And basically epigenetics shows that you have to have a lifestyle that actually turns that gene on. So that means you could have a gene like for something like Alzheimer's, but because of your healthy lifestyle, and I literally have a patient who's this way, because we did her genetic testing actually, and she dodged so many bullets. I swear she's like Neo. Like she had so many problems that she could have had when we look at her blood and all this stuff, and she just like dodged everything because she has this healthy lifestyle. She literally doesn't have any of these problems. So genetics, again, genetics is a gun pointed at you. Your lifestyle was a trigger. You don't have, just because you have a gene for something doesn't mean that you're going to express that gene. Okay. And then the last thing is iatrogenic deaths. Anybody know what iatrogenic means? So basically it means medical errors, okay? So there's a lady who did, her name was Barbara Starfield, back in like 2003, she did a study, and she basically to find out what the leading killers are in the United States. And she found that the leading killers in the United States were, the first one was heart disease, the second one was cancer, and the third one was iatrogenic deaths, is medical errors. So she was with Johns Hopkins medical researchers. So Johns Hopkins, they're like the best medical researchers in the world. They found that the third leading cause of death in the United States was medical errors. And just because that's so unbelievable, I'll show you the graph as well. So this is from Johns Hopkins University, heart disease, cancer, and medical errors. So this means people that went to the hospital and for some reason, and she just did hospitals, she didn't even do skilled nursing homes and all that. But this is people getting the right medication for the right diagnosis at the right time, the right amount. People that got the wrong diagnosis, the wrong drug, people that picked up infections in hospitals, just people that went to hospital and ended up never making it out. So pretty crazy, huh? So where's the most dangerous place in the US that we could walk into? The hospital, right? What's the most expensive place in the world that we could walk into?
The hospital.
Yeah, in the US. The hospital, right? So we just want to stay on the hospitals. That's why some of these things might seem like kind of fundamental to you, like, okay, yeah, I need to eat better. I need to exercise. I need to do some things that, lower my stress. But that's the only way out. It's not like sexy. It's always the same answer. These tried and true old methods, they never fail. But it's not like, you guys ever seen House on the, ER or House? Like, those are so exciting and all that, But really, to bring somebody from disease into health, this is the only way. You have to do these fundamental things. Yeah, so just being in my profession, I see everybody from little kids. My youngest patient was 6 weeks old, and then Dr. Shelby and Dr. Giamatti, they see pregnant mamas and they adjust babies, all of that. And then my oldest patient was like 90 or so. So I see like everybody from all kinds, but I see the differences in people. Like I have, this is my last story, but I have a patient. Her name is Chris, and she is 71, I think. And have you guys ever seen Curves? There's a workout place called Curves. I think they're closing them now, but it's like workout for ladies. She's part of what I call the Curve Mafia, and it's these ladies, and they all work out together, and then they put on these little French hats and go to French restaurants, and they sit and they have coffee and tea together, and they go on walks together. But it's like part of their little group that they exercise and they stay fit. And Chris, she goes on river trips, and she just did like 2 river trips in Europe, and then she's going to like England and Ireland and stuff, and she walked around everywhere, and she came back, and I was adjusting her, just a maintenance, wellness adjustment. I was like, how'd everything go? How'd your body treat you? She's like, yeah, fine. I was like, Chris, I have patients that are 40 years younger than you that they can't even do what you're doing. And I've seen people's face when they're like, it's like they're at a point where maybe I can't even help them. And they're like, I've heard the words like, I feel like I worked my whole life, and now I can't even walk around Europe, And so all of these little things, and so hopefully that's supposed to be an acute stress response that I'm giving you, not a chronic stress response. But I want to give you a little bit of motivation, because really there's a lot of fundamental things that we know, we make these choices every day. But it's those choices matter, and you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be as perfect as I am. Right? But no, I'm personally kidding. I mess up all the time. I do the best I can until I'm like, man, I want some pizza. Okay. All right. So here's, like I said, I was gonna offer you. So this is our gift to you. So if any of these things, if anything I've said, resonates with you, there's no. You guys don't have to do this, but if you would like to, you are more than welcome to make. If you pay a $50 donation, that goes to the Samaritan Inn because we work with them. That's a local, the homeless shelter. And if you do that, then you can come into our office, and basically there's a 2-day process. You come in, we'll do our neurological scans. You talk to one of the doctors. So you either talk to me, or you talk to Dr. Shelby or Dr. Giamatti, and you can talk about your wellness goals, what you want, all of those goals, all those kind of things, and we just sit down and we talk with you about it. And then, if we can help you, we do an exam, we do the scans. So these neurological scans will scan and see what the muscles of your spine are doing. And it's really about the health of your nervous system. We also do a thermography, which shows if there's inflammation and irritation. We always focus on the spine first, because that's the foundation of your body. That's the first thing that forms. If you have a problem with your nervous system, you have pinched nerves, it can affect other organs, it can affect other things. So we want to make sure that is right first before we try to chase symptoms or something like that. So that's what we do. And it's a 2-day process. You come in, we get you all checked out. Then you come back for a 2nd day visit. That gives us time to look over your scans, look over your neurological studies and all that. And then if we can help you, we'll sit down and tell you what's wrong, what needs to be done, how long it'll take, answer any questions you have. So it would be all of that, and then we give you your first adjustment as long as you can. So that's all included if you guys want it, but no pressure if you don't. But I really appreciate you guys listening to me tonight. Any questions? Any other questions you guys have? So many? Did I leave you with a bunch of questions?
I just am questioning life now. I'm like, wow, there's so many things I need to do. It's good.
Baby steps.
Yeah.
Baby steps. But like I said, our office is a little different. We're not about you guys may have heard of the joint. There's a lot of places that you go. We're not the kind of office that you come to and we want to look at your whole, give you a plan for long term. We don't want to just crack your bones, get you out of some back pain, and that's it. There's a lot of other places you can go. We're not the cheapest guys on the block. There's a lot of places you can go and get that. What makes us different is our systems. We actually correct posture, and sometimes that takes months. It takes months to actually bring somebody from a posture like this to actually start to bring them back. And there's exercises and there's sleep therapy and different things. We have to go on how are you sleeping and all that stuff. So. But if that sounds worth it to you, we'd love to have you.
Are you a network with any insurances?
That's a great question. So what we do, insurance is considered wellness care. So what insurance pays for is pain care. So with the doctors in our group, when we put everything together, we do our programs. When insurance says that they won't pay for them, we just decided that we would be out of network. So we're out of network with insurances. A lot of our patients still use their insurances, and we provide super bills for them, and they send them in. And it depends on what kind of insurance you chose for yourself. But we have a lot of our patients that will use their health savings accounts and all of that. But the truth is just to be blunt, insurance doesn't care about your health, guys. They don't care about you. And that's why what they pay for is it's 20 years old, the therapies and things that they'll pay for. And there's a lot of chiropractic offices that do a lot of that stuff, but they do it so they can get paid on insurance. We just want to keep, we just want to know that we're doing the best thing for our patients and the best thing for their health. And hopefully that will save you money in the long run, for medical bills. But that's a great question. Any other questions?
Well, I have some problem about neck and here, so I needed to call your office to make an appointment.
Actually, Leon. So I'm gonna hang out just for a little bit, guys. Just come around, just say hi and all of that. So you're more than welcome to make an appointment with either Leandra or I can make it for you. But yeah, we're just whenever we do these, we open up a few appointments just for these wine talks. So I think we have about 5 or 6 for this one.
So the first day you will scan for the whole body and then check what kind of the problem.
Yes. Yes. And then the second day, we go over everything and get you adjusted. And if we have recommendations, we make those. If they make sense, we do those. If not, then that's it.
Okay, she can check what kind of the insurance.
Yeah, so yeah, we can always take a look at your insurance, but chances are we're going to be out of network, not in network.
Oh,
Does that make sense to you? Yeah.
and if the insurance doesn't cover, so the how much for the scan?
So we're just doing a donation for 50. So usually guys to come in and get checked out like that day 1, day 2 is so usually it's $235 to get those first 2 days. But whenever we do these wine talks, we just do for the $50 donation.
Oh,
So does that make sense?
yeah, yes.
Okay, cool. All right, thanks a lot, guys. We're gonna hang around for a little bit, but feel free to hang out for as long as you want. You guys got at least two glasses of wine. So. Cool.
Nice.
Thank you.
Is anybody interested in making an appointment? Yes, you know? Okay, great.
Can I get a 2 business card? I have my next neighbor need paint. I want to refer to her.
We don't bring any business cards. If you would like, you can always either if you want to. Do you want to make an appointment for them, or you want to talk to them?
Well, I have to talk to the yeah. So if I can leave my information and.
Yeah. If you want to get, so you know where we're called? It's Illuminate Chiropractic. We're online. You can always.
Can I write down the information and I can give it to you my phone number or.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
And then your name and number, and then I'll have one of the girls call you tomorrow. And we're going from there.
Okay. This is my number. You can text me information.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's my number. So.
Yeah, I'll do it. I'm gonna have the ladies send it to you tomorrow morning.
Okay, good. Thanks.
Okay, great.
And
Thanks for coming.
yeah. It's not a coincidence because my neighbor on the next neighbor, he got an accident. She got the accident.
In a car accident?
Yeah, and he had a lot of pain on the back, and he was looking for a good chiropractor.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We do see people that have had a car accident.
And also I had a car accident, and a couple years ago, I went to the Texas back pain injury office. Joe Lieberman, you know him? Yeah, he did for me to do a yoga, but he didn't really he didn't help me out at all. So, I wanted to get in touch with you.
Yeah. Well, remember, did you want to make an appointment?
I have to wait because I cannot just make an appointment right away, but I have to talk to you.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Hey, Gary.
Dr. Shelley. So good. I'm just very I'm not a great speaker.
I've learned in the past an extra one. No, you did it. Yeah, you did it. Very, very good.
Yeah, we're going to be doing some different ones. I think Dr. Shelby's done So 20 years ago or so, Dr. Allen actually started Dr. Shelby's Hospitals, and they're in Alabama. Free out there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I went to visit, I drove first time.
That's a drive.
No, it was kind of cool. And then I went to Albuquerque, and I went to all the offices, and everybody on that on my first trip. And then